She said!
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. I hit the mute button. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective, and we have a special today. We have Steve Stern on from the Election Integrity Project, right? As well as, what was your company name?
So we're the flagshirt.com. We're going to talk about precinct strategy and election integrity, and a lot to talk about today, and we'll try to do this in the next 30 minutes.
Perfect.
We're running a little late, but that's fine. We do this all the time. So let's get right into it. Let's start with a couple of questions you got, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm a precinct captain. Found out today, I guess I'm a PCO. Apparently, they assigned me as PCO. I thought I was a precinct captain, and I attend my Republican Party meeting every month. I have since I got back from prison. I was a J6 defendant for a long time. That was a lot of fun, obviously stemming from the 2020 election fraud. And I became aware of you when you came on Steve Bannon's show probably in 2021, talking about the precinct strategy and how to rebuild the Republican Party from the ground up. So when I got, uninvolved with the Department of Justice, I immediately jumped in and got involved. And I've kind of sat back and I've watched how the county operates. And there's a huge deficiency in precinct committee officers. You just don't see them. Like, we had our meeting earlier this week on Monday, and we were endorsing candidates, and there was like 30 people in the room. I mean, it was like this tiny showing, and here we are endorsing candidates. And so we wanted to have you on and talk about the strategy of actually taking over the Republican Party, affecting our politics, and who gets elected, is selected to go on the ballot and gets the endorsements and whatnot. And you've got a strategy for that.
100%. Well, we started with precinct strategy with Steve Bannon and Dan Schultz, and we just expanded that now to something new, which we started about 3 months ago. So it's very important because you're 100% right. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party has 400,000 slots. And the funny part about it is that not funny, but the Democrats just stole our precinct strategy book. So we're going to talk about how important it is. And about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, a girl was watching me on Bannon like you were watching, and her name is Tina Celine. She called me and said, "Hey, can you help turn California red?" I said, "Well, look, I'm good, but I don't think I can do it, but let's try." So we got a hold of about 10,000 people between us, and it's like every other state where people don't want to get involved. Now, I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm going to let you know how I got started. I started in Broward County, Florida, so we're in the opposite ends of the United States, but it's great because we want to connect people all over the country. So when I started 25 years ago, same thing happened now as happened then. I got in, took 3 months before somebody returned the call, and it took 3 months before somebody sent me an application. So they wasted 6 months. I get into the meeting, the first meeting finally, after I got inducted, and nobody spoke to me. I said, "Well, that's crazy. How could you do your job if nobody even tells you what you got to do?" Next meeting, same thing happened. So at the end of the meeting, I went up to the chairman and I said to her, "Hey, I'd like to take over the phone." She said, "Oh, that's great because nobody's really doing it. I'm really a phone guy. I speak to hundreds of people a week." And I took over the phones and it was 185 messages. But I also asked her if I could be the membership director. So out of those phone calls, I got 35 new members. So let's fast forward this and we'll go back and forth, but let's fast forward this to 3 months ago. So we were doing precinct strategy. I've been on Steve Bannon 100 times. I've been on John Frederick, Steve Gruber, every person on Real America Voice, and we'll tell you more about how we've expanded this. So what we did 3 months ago, we decided to start this new thing called precinctprojectusa.org. And we need to, anybody who's listening, and we'll send this out through Rumble on our channel as well as send this out after this interview, but go to precinctprojectusa.org. Now, why is that different than precinct strategy? Well, precinct strategy, which we'll show you, is Dan Schultz, and many people know about this. If you go to www.precinctstrategy.com, you can find out how to become a member of the Republican Party in every state, because every state is different. So, why did we start the precinct project? Well, number one, on precinct strategy, nobody really will ever call you back. You get on there, you find out how to join, and then you decide to get into a state. Now, what we've done differently here, we have one person in every state that is there so that you can call. So if you're in California, you talk to Tina or one of our other gentlemen, and they will tell you how to get involved. And we have a whole committee, Aaron Katzenbauer, who's out of Arizona, John Turnicliffe, who's out of California, up in up in the upper part of the state, Jonathan Broadbent out of Ohio, Joel Brazil out of Wisconsin, and numerous other people throughout the United States. But we have some great people like Andy Mahan, who started this with me, and a few other people, Donna Ellington, and we have people from New York. But what it is you send a message out, and every month what we're doing is we have a Zoom meeting. So the next Zoom meeting is going to be on April 30th, which we ask everybody to come on. And how do you get on? You go to Stern American Rumble. That's my channel. Will be live. Now we also do an election integrity call, which we just got over, and we'll go over that too. So how are the two intermingled? Well, precinct strategy, the main job, and when you become a committee man and committee woman, just like we said a little while ago, is to get candidates elected. Well, if we have 400,000 slots and only 200,000 people, then it's difficult to do because you need 400,000 people. And just like you went to an LA meeting and there was 30 people and there should have been 500 people in there because LA is so big. So we're trying to get people involved, and our goal is to get 200,000 new involved. And that started about 3 months ago. We've already got about 10,000 new people involved. How did that happen? Every 2 years, you get elected to your position as a committee man and committee women. And in many states, like Florida, where I'm in Broward County, we can appoint people. So different states have different ways to get involved. In California, you have central committee. Florida, you have executive committee. Rhode Island, you got town committees. Wisconsin, you don't have any committees. So you have to look up on precinct strategy on how to get involved, and you can email any of our people to find out how to get involved. And why is that important? Because the 2026 election, the Democrats are outpacing us on getting people involved, and they're getting people out. The Republicans are kind of asleep on what's going on. So we'll tell you everything about this and why is it connected with election integrity and how did this all happen? I don't know if you can expand the screen here. Can you expand your screen to get me on full time? And I'm going to show you some stuff in the background here.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so you see a picture of President Trump in the background, and we have another picture on the other side, which we can't see, but we'll tell you what happened and how did all this transpire. So 2 days before the 2022 election, I was up with President Trump, and that is Mar-a-Lago, what you see. And when I was up there and how I got up there, there's another picture on the other side, which is hard to see. But that picture, took a picture with President Trump in our auditorium here. And how I got to see him was one of my candidates was running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And she was invited to come up and speak with President Trump. She paid X amount of dollars, and they brought me in as an extra person because I got so many people to this big event that they had. There was 17,000 people involved in this. So what happened was there was 25 people plus myself that were in these meetings for 8 hours. We got there at about 7 o'clock in the morning at the auditorium where the Florida Panthers played, and we had a whole thing set up with the Broward Republican Executive Committee, the Palm Beach Executive Committee, and we kind of stopped people when they were walking to their seats, and we got them signed up and involved. So, and wherever there were people coming in from up the state, we took their names and addressed sent it up to other people. So that we started with that, and then I left that about 9 o'clock, and I started going into meetings with different people. The governor of Arkansas was there, Trump Jr., Kash Patel, many people were there, and every hour we'd go to another room with a meeting with those people. And about 4 o'clock, they got us together and we sat down. I was exhausted at that time because, I'm 84 years old, and then I was 82. And doing 8 hours and getting up 5 o'clock and getting there and getting in with the Secret Service and everything was crazy. So we sat down for about 20 minutes, and then we went into a room where we took, where the Secret Service took everything away from us, all our pens, all our phones, etc. We put them all down, and we started taking pictures with President Trump. And I was wearing my PC button, which was a precinct committee man, which I am in Broward County, and today I'm the vice chair, but back then I was just a committee man. And we took the picture, and President Trump saw the little thing I had on my lapel, and he said, "What is that?" I said, "Well, that's a precinct committee man." He said, "Well, we're going to go into a room. I'd like to have you discuss that with me and exactly what that is." Because I asked him if he knew what precinct strategy was. He said he did not. So when we were in the room, he asked me about that, and when I told him what it was and everything like that, he said, "Look, if I'd known about this, I would have won the 2020 election." And he said, give your card to my assistants, and they will invite you up to Mar-a-Lago. Well, I knew that they probably weren't going to do it, so I called Mar-a-Lago and asked for one of the secretaries, and she said, "Yes, I will get you up there with President Trump, because if he told you to give his assistants the card and they didn't do it, I will take care of that." Well, she did, and about 2 weeks before that picture, they called me, and there was an appointment, and they said, "I'm sorry, we have to cancel because he has to go to New York." Well, I didn't think I was going to be able to get in, but 2 weeks later, they invited me back up. And this is a funny thing that happened, because the day that I got invited up there was a day we were having actually an event for President Trump. So I knew he was going to be there. We were going to, I was working with United West and Jexit, an anti-Semitic company, to present him an award for everything he did for Israel. We worked on that for 6 weeks, and we had 250 people there. So I got up there at 4 o'clock, and I was with him. And the reason I went up there was to ask him to get involved and ask people to get involved with the Republican Party when he did his all his rallies, and he said he would do that. And then he asked me, which changed kind of my life. He said to me, "Steve, what do you think about the 2024 election?" And back up a little bit, I had asked him if he would endorse two of my candidates. Well, 2 days before the 2022 election, I never thought he would do that, but he actually endorsed two of my candidates, one in Vermont and one in New Hampshire, which I thought was unbelievable, because here I'm just an average guy like you know what I mean? And we're just trying to save the country. So we did that, and he asked me what I thought about the 2024 election. I said, "Well, look, Mr. President, I didn't really think that anything was going to change as far as election integrity." Well, he knew we were doing a precinct strategy Zoom meeting because he had endorsed precinct strategy. And, after I had talked to him, Liz Harrington, Steve Bannon, Dan Schultz got together, and we were able to get Liz Harrington to get him to endorse precinct strategy. So I said to him, I really didn't think that, anything was going to happen with election integrity. But he said, "Why don't you move your election integrity Zoom with the precinct strategy?" Well, I said, "Let me think about it," because I didn't really know him a lot about election integrity. So about 5 weeks later, after calling about 100 people and asking who were the top people in election integrity, we got about 5 speakers on election integrity and 5 speakers on precinct strategy. And we had our first election integrity precinct strategy Zoom. And we had about 700 people on it, and on a Zoom meeting. And I thought that was great. And we did two a month for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I would getting on Steve Bannon in the morning of the election integrity precinct strategy Zoom, and he would promote it. But about 2 years ago, I got on in the morning, and he said, "Hey, put your email on the bottom of the screen." Well, I did that because normally what I would do, and I will tell you, anybody who would like to get on, they can email me, and I would put this up, stern1024@gmail.com, and he would talk about our flag shirt, because you'd always see it in the back, and he would ask me questions about it. So we're the largest patriotic website in the world, called theflagshirt.com. And he would promote that because he knew that I worked very hard on it. And if you want to get involved, go to stern1024@gmail.com, or give me a call at 954-562-5225. I call everybody back. We tell you all kind of information. So what changed? He said to me, "Steve, I'm going to do you a big favor. I'm going to put this live on Getter and on my war room feed. And the next day, Maureen Bannon called me and said, "Hey, we got 60,000 people on." And I said to myself, wow, as an 82-year-old guy, you got to think of something different every day. And I said, wow. So I started calling podcasters like you and other people to help us put this live. And this past Monday, we had a Zoom meeting and a feed to 100 podcasters, TV networks such as OBBM Network in Dallas, Lindell TV, Patriot TV, many different avenues. And we got 8 million people on it. And we've been
Wow.
getting between 6 and 8 million people on since Steve put it on. He put it on. He got about 30,000. I got 10,000 on my Stern American, or 12,000. Normally we get 24,000. So you never know how many you're going to get, depending whether um, Rumble puts it on their front page. But we send it out after we get many, many views on this thing and many people come on. And we have the top people on all the time on our election call. Um, we've had Captain Seth Keshel on this past Monday. We've had Ticton on. We've had Cleta Mitchell on, Jovan Pulitzer. Joe Holt comes on all the time. Gary Myers from the Gary Myers Report. Garland Favorito. And this time we had some great guests. We had General Flynn come on, and we had Wayne Root. And then we try to get people on from different states so that new people would come on all the time. So this goes on probably every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on whether we have time. And the next one is going to be May the 6th. And our next precinct project will be April the 30th. So anybody who wants to see this, it's very important to come on. And it's very important to know what's going on. And it's very important because when President Trump won the election, um, Susie Wiles texted me and said, "Thank you for everything you did." And I asked her what we did. Well, what we did was we had people go to protectthevote.com to be able to become a poll watcher and poll worker. And we got 40,000 poll watchers and poll workers. And that's an estimate. I don't know the exact amount, but they told us we got that because the RNC, which I'm a part of, asked us to help them get them in certain areas. Philadelphia, Detroit, all the areas where the left kind of control the elections and where they're stolen, Atlanta, many places. And as you know, we're working on the SAVE Act to try to get things done. President Trump has done executive orders. Now, I'm very proud of the fact that Wayne Root, along with Peter Tickton, um, Corsi, um, General Flynn, um, uh, Goodman, John Goodman, were part of the team that sent all this information up to President Trump in order to him to do the executive order on mail-in ballots that just came out and no illegal aliens voting. Now, as you know, in your state, it's probably the most corrupt when it comes to mail-in ballots. And why do we say that? Well, let's take one area on the last election, Orange
And
County.
just so you know, I'm in Washington State. Lisa is in
Washington.
California, and
Lisa.
Washington State is no better than California. We're universal mail-in ballots
No,
here.
we know 100% because in Washington they only mail in ballots, so it's only mail in ballots. And I don't know if you know Robin Balcone. Do you know Robin? We're going to get her on your program because she's dynamite and she's a precinct committee woman, and she's also works with us on election integrity and precinct project. So she's very important. And one of her friends actually flew down to see his son in Orlando and came and drove down to see me, and we sat and talked about the state of Washington and how bad it is up there. So we know how bad it is in either thing, but let's go to Lisa's area in California, where Orange County, both Joe Hoft and myself worked on it. How you doing, Lisa? And we talked about how the election was stolen in Orange County. And let me explain what happened. So on election day in 2022 and in 2024, we won. When I say we, um, three of the candidates won their on election day, and they were way ahead by about 10,000 votes. A week later, in comes the mail-in ballots that they said came in, and it was getting close. A week after that, more ballots came in, and it was even. A week later, after that, ballots came in, and all the Democrats won. Well, think about that. How could ballots come in 3 weeks after the election? Well, we know that was stolen. And But the people in Orange County didn't want to say anything because of the fact that it would cost them $10,000 each for recounts, and they just let it happen. So this is happening all over the country. As you know, President Trump got the ballots in Georgia, and he got the ballots in Arizona, Maricopa County. We have a friend of mine that uh, Michelle Swinick that worked 2 years on showing the fraud, and how many people lost their election in Maricopa County. Now the bad news on all this stuff is that we see all this fraud, and when you go to court, the Democratic judges, because you go to court in left-leaning areas where that's where the elections are stolen. Not to say that there aren't elections stolen in Florida. We've had elections stolen in Palm Beach, which is right above me, and it happens everywhere because wherever you have a Democratic person that's leading the elections there, to counting the votes, and they find ways to do it. And as we know, President Trump is working really hard on trying to show how the 2020 election was stolen, the 2022 election was stolen, even though he won in many cases. The down ballots in the last election, many of them lost. President Trump won the election, but down ballots as Orange County and many other areas, I'm sure in Washington, where they have mail-in ballots. So we're working very hard on getting that. Now, what I do is I normally take a couple of breaths because you hear it's funny because one of the women who was watching me on Bannon do this same thing said, Steve, whenever you're on, make sure that you tell the producer or the person on to give you a break for about a minute or two because you don't breathe, and go home and take some oxygen. So before we go on, I'm going to take a couple of breaths. I'm going to take a glass of water and let you guys ask some questions. So
That's great. We've got one question in the chat. This is how great to be on with to be with Trump. Is he as easy to speak to as it seems?
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
It says how great to be with Trump, and the question is he as easy to speak to as it seems?
Well, the first thing is I'm going to send you something that I got that's going to really blow you away. The first thing is, yes, when I was in the conference with 25 people, the man has a memory that is unbelievable. And he talks to you like you are talking to just an average guy on the street. You know what I'm saying? So when I came home on May 20th in 2022, I got a letter. And I'm going to show you this letter. I'm not sure if everybody can see. You see the little tear that's in the back of the letter? I put a little tape up on the thing, but I came home and my wife ripped the letter. Now, she normally doesn't open up my mail, but for some reason she did this, and I want to see if everybody can see. Let's get over here. You see where that came from? It came from Mar-a-Lago. And I'm going to open up the thing, and God sometimes does things. Well, the letter wasn't ripped. I don't know how she could rip the envelope, but the letter wasn't ripped. And I want to read this particular letter to you because it's very, very interesting because people have said in the chat about President Trump. So I got this letter for my birthday on May 20th, and it says, Dear Steve, we want to join your family and friends in wishing you a happy 81st birthday. Our nation is strong because of hardworking patriots like you who believe in and defend the great American ideals of faith, family, community, and country first. Your commitment to excellence and dedication, exemplifying the American dream through ingenuity, hard work, and principled leadership, is the foundation of your tremendous success and demonstrates the proud spirit of family-owned and operated business. As you celebrate this special day, we hope your heart is filled with joy knowing you have experienced our country's greatest blessings, freedom, and the affection of your loved ones. Melania and I send our very best wishes for your continued health, happiness, and success. Happy birthday, and may God bless you and your family, Donald Trump. So a lot of people say, why do you work so hard? Well, after I try to relax a little bit and got that letter, I guess I had to go out and work even harder. I'm a 24/7 guy, 7 days a week. I stop at 6 o'clock. A lot of people ask me to come on at night, Fox, other people. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. The one thing you have to do is you have to honor your family as well as that, because I work 7 days a week. And at 6 o'clock, I'm off. And, I spend the time with my wife. On the weekends, we spend naturally with our family if we can. So even though I work during the day, at night is always for my family. So that any other questions before, we go on in this thing?
I would love to tell you that you are an absolute hero.
among our home and our community. We are so blessed and grateful for that energy you've put forward and that spirit. We take on this notion that we have to be the change that we want to see. And Taylor drives it home in his podcast, in our community. It's fantastic that you, at a young age of 84, can demonstrate that we have no excuse not to do this, right?
Well, we're going to do something very different also. I hadn't mentioned that yet, but I'm glad you add that. You know, I went out 2 years ago to Charlie Kirk talking about Turning Point asking to get involved. So we haven't seen them get involved as committee men and committee women. And you know, the average age is between 60 and 90 of our committee men and committee women. And you know, naturally, we're trying to get younger people. Now, there is a few younger people, but not enough. So, what I'm going to do, I have contacted the YRs, which means Young Republicans, College Young Republicans, and we're going to have a Zoom meeting in May sometime with 50 young Republicans around the country, asking why we can't get more of them involved. And that's going to be the important thing, because as our people retire and as our people get older, and you know, you never know what health is going to do to you at our age. And I'm actually going to be 85 next month. And you know, you start to, you know, say to yourself, hey, how much longer do we have to go? You know, you worry about it, because when you're working as hard as I am, you know, your health, you know, doesn't always get up. And a lot of people say, well, how does President Trump do it at his age? You have to be born like that. I've been in business 72 years, and what you see behind me, the flag shirts and everything like that. And now that we have, and you see I'm wearing our 250 stuff, we have the largest selection of 250 paraphernalia in the flagshirt.com. And, you know, normally I don't even talk about it too much, but we'll get it out this time. Go to the flagshirt.com, www.theflagshirt.com, because I gave most of the business to my son so that I'm able to do this, because, you know, you can't do this and do business at the same time, because this takes 12 hours a day. We have to field questions all over, and we have to get people involved. Now, you may come to us and say, are we getting people involved? In certain states, yes. In certain states, no. And we also, the problem with the Republicans, we have the rhinos, we have the establishment, and we got the MAGA. And one of the things I'm worried about, because a lot of people always ask me questions, and I'm going to answer some of this. President Trump has been very negative with a lot of people coming up against him with the war and other things that are happening. And I got to tell President Trump, and we're going to send him a note, that he's got to start to bring on positive people around the country and start to, you know, give them a little backing, because what happens is when you start getting negative with everybody, people get upset. And we see this on X. You know, I don't have a lot of time to look at X, but I try every day to go on and see what General Flynn is. He was on our program the other day, and what he wants us to do. I was on a special meeting with him with 50 of our top podcasters around the country. And we'll get back to you, because we want everybody to stream what we're doing. But once a month, we're going to try to get him on, and he's going to come up with a message. And that message is something we're going to all have to try to follow. Because what we said at this meeting was that all the left leaning newscasters and everything are just going against Trump, against the Republican
So
Party.
are some of the influencers on the right, and there's so much confusion. We are, like, I'm in California. John Turnicliffe, sorry.
Right. Yep.
He is amazing. He was responsive, and I can't say enough about that. He got back to me. Like, it is worth putting your energy into this movement, because the people are engaged, and he gave me the information I needed. He stayed engaged. He figured out who I needed to meet in my community. Like, I can't say enough about the importance of getting the clear message out of what you want us to be doing, because with that, even going to the meeting, there was a little bit of confusion on my end. My first meeting that I went to, Trump is saying no mail-in ballots. I'm in California. I'm in Los Angeles County. God forbid. And they're saying, get your vote out as soon as possible. Well, that's a mail-in ballot. I've saved every mail-in ballot I have, because to me, it's fraud, right? It's evidence.
In a lot of the states, we have early voting. But unfortunately, in California, Washington, Oregon, some of the states, you have mostly mail-in ballots. What he's saying, get your vote in early for early voting, because what can happen is, let's say you go to election day, and let's say you get sick, then you don't vote. Let's say it's raining and you don't want to stand in the rain. Let's say in certain areas it could be snowing. and you don't want to go, you don't want to stand out there. Or you see a line because in Maricopa County during one of the elections, the machines jammed and it took them hours to fix it. So that's why we're asking more people to vote early. And we're also working on getting rid of the machines. But in answer to your question, on April the 30th, we're going to have a precinct project. I don't know if you were on before earlier. Precinct project,
Yep.
um, USA.org. We're asking everybody to join that. And that's where you got to Chernigate and some of the other people and Tina Celine, who's my contact there. But one of the things I want to talk about, which on every, and I don't want her forgotten, is Tina Peters. We're asking everybody to call the governor. We had John Case on there on the last meeting this past Monday. Go to 303, call 303-866-2471 to try to get the governor to give a pardon to Tina Peters. He said he would think about it and maybe do it. She just had a hearing with three of the judges who sending it back to her to be resentenced because the judge who did it was the most scrupulous. I don't want to use bad language on.
Mhm.
We all know that this guy just regular over coals. And somebody a couple of months ago did the same thing that Tina did and got no time in jail. And it's ridiculous. This poor woman has it. So every time I'm on a show, I talk about Tina Peters. She's called me from prison many times, and we always have somebody on our show talking about Tina and praying for her
Yeah.
because of this stuff. So I have a few more minutes left. Why don't you, Lisa, you weren't on the whole show, I don't think. Why don't you ask a couple of questions? Glad to answer them.
I also want to mention that I loved the all call you did. Whenever you do them and you broadcast them on multiple channels, I want to encourage everybody to go watch because it was helpful for me to hear Mike Lindell, for example, say, don't lose hope. There is a lot going on in terms of the election fraud. It matters to vote. We've got to vote, right? Is that still the—
Well, I want to let everybody know if you go to Stern American Rumble, every one of our past ones are on there. And I want people to go back and look at some of them because there's so much information on that. You know, we see this fraud everywhere. And President Trump is fighting this like crazy, and all our people are fighting it. We don't see a great thing happening yet unless they pass the SAVE Act and unless President Trump's executive order he just put in gets really into law that all the ballots are no illegal aliens. Very important, and you can see all this, and it's on the screen. Very important. My site. All these are on there. The back ones. We did one at Trump International where people flew in, and I got about 3 or 4 minutes left because we ran a little late today. Any other questions I can answer before we wrap this up?
anything else that you want us to get out to our community? Any message? We believe in controlling the narrative. It's critical. We want to get the young people involved, realizing that, voting matters. Anything else along those lines?
I know you were trying to get an audience, and I'm trying, a bigger audience, and I'm trying to help everybody. So, in your states, what you need to do, you need to build an email list where every time you have something on, not only do they go on live, but you send them the Rumble link. That's how we built up our thing. We have on our list alone over 100,000 people. We started this, a number of years ago, and we just kept building it up. Raj Diajami from Defend Florida, myself, he's my co-host. We have other co-hosts. Michelle Swinick does some of our things. We try to bring new people on. Linda Sinkowitz, fightvoterfraud.org. I mean, we have 100 different people that are key experts. And I just got called by a gentleman that we had on, and he's got a case from, I believe it's from New Hampshire, that is going to the Supreme Court from the 2020 election, and it's going up there, and we're going to have him back on again. And anybody that would like for us to bring on, we try to bring on different people. As I said, we had Gary Myers on. We had many of the doctors on. We bring on a lot of people continuously, Greg Stenstrom, because these people are working round the clock and spending all their money. We had Dr. John Eastman on. And I want to talk about one person that's in California that's very important you should have on, Dr. Epstein. He is
Yes.
you know him? He's a Democrat that we've had on, but he believes in fair elections. And what he did was he formed a company where he has 11,000 people working on that is stopping Google from swaying elections. Many people don't realize this, that, we're on Gmail, all these AOL, they all um, sway you to the left. You can believe that it's 90% swayed to the left and 10% to the right. So Google is always telling you, if you ask who do you think I should vote for, it's always going to be to the guy on the left. It's never going to be to the guy on the right. So he's stopping that the best he can do. So we try to bring on people that give you information that you would never know about. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's so important. So I got about 1 minute left. Ask everybody.
We've got one question. Carlitz, one of our longtime listeners, says, Steve, do you think when it comes to elections that the military will have to get involved at some point? And I think he's referring to, Tulsi Gabbard's involved at ODNI. She's got military intelligence under her. You've got, the machines and potential foreign interference. Have you heard any rumblings that there's going to be some type of over-the-top action to?
No, I think that would be too extreme. I think what President Trump, we're working with him to get rid of the machines. And that's one of the biggest things, because nobody knows what happens in the machines.
Even Nancy Pelosi recently was like, the Republicans are going to get in the machines and manipulate them. It's like, if that's even a possibility, why does anybody want them?
Exactly. The Democrats always say the right thing, but they never do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Because you can go back and see all these people who said, yeah, we shouldn't have illegals voting. But just in your states, just in California, there's probably 20 million illegals in California. And I don't know how many in Washington. Not that they all vote, but somebody may vote for them. We've heard of people that have in California getting 10 ballots. We've heard that they sent them to gas stations, you know what I mean? And we know that the post office helps in screwing up the elections also. So there's so many different ways that fraud can happen that people don't know. But if President Trump doesn't get the executive orders through the Supreme Court and make sure that no illegals vote, just not having illegals vote is going to help. And if you get Linda Sinkowitz, she's going to tell you how many people double voted. Now, people ask me can people double vote? I'll tell you how the easiest way to do it.
No, don't tell people how to do it. Don't do it.
No, tell us.
We're stopping it. Or one of the ways they do it is they own a house in New York and they own a house in New Hampshire. Well, how are you going to stop them from voting in both places? Because nobody's going to know, because that's a legal address. And that's some of the things that, Linda has shown. So we have people that can tell you we have people that can, in Georgia, that can give you the voter rolls and how screwed up they are. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to see a lot of action from President Trump here in the next 4 or 5 weeks because he knows how bad things are. And just this one thing with getting all the illegals off the voter rolls is going to really help. You know what I'm saying? So Let's see what happens over the next 2 weeks. And we hope we have great information coming up on May the 6th on our next election call. And our precinct project call will be on April the 30th. And we will let you know when our young people call will be. And you can always get it on Stern American. It's always there right after the call. It's always live. So there's no reason why you can't watch it. And it's easy to scroll through it. You may want to see what General Flynn has to say. And like you said, Mike Lindell, and if anybody out there has people that want to come on and we vet them and make sure they have something to say. We had one of the people from Riverside on there, Ron Edwards. He talked about, his election and also how it was stolen in Riverside, and they have, the sheriff got all the voters.
Yes, and now they're blocking it.
I know, but it's already out there. He's already got the information, and President Trump got the information from Georgia and from what do you call it, Maricopa. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out. So again, I want to thank everybody for letting me be on today, and we appreciate it. And we'll get you whoever you need to come on. We have a lot of people that are willing to come on, whether you have 6 people or 1 million, it doesn't matter. I never turn anybody down, and that's the secret of this. And if you know anybody that you want me to come on, I'm glad to do it. Anybody that want to speak, we don't turn anybody down. We try to get everybody a chance to speak. The one bad problem we have in this country is communication. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and that's why we're bringing everybody on. I'm not an expert in anything. I bring the experts on. So I always end up with action, action, action. I always salute our military for everything they're doing and hope everything goes well for Tina and for our military in Iran. So thank you for having me on, and we will put this out all over for you guys.
Steve, thank you so much. We'll have you on again soon, and we'll reach out to you and get all those people, and we'll have them on as well. Our community is small, but they're real people that go out and actually take action. That's the thing. I am absolutely certain in our audience, because we had one sign up this morning to be a precinct, and he's going to go chase down his spot. And we're about actually making it happen.
Well, this is funny thing you said that, because on Steve Bannon one time, I heard one of the guys from Europe say, I don't care if I go in front of one person or I go in front of a million. The reason is that one person can do us more good than the million that are listening. And that's why it's important. It doesn't make any difference if you got 6 people listening today, but we'll get this out to 1 million people. That one person, just like you said, may be a sign up. And that one person may be who we're looking for. And that happens all over the country. We need to get activists out there as fast as possible. So I have all these people yelling at me in the background here. We were supposed to be out for lunch.
Okay.
So
thank you so much, Steve.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Right. Thanks. That is great, Lisa. I'm so glad that you invited him to come on the show. And what an amazing blessing to be able to connect with him and all the connections he's have. We need to make sure we reach out to all the people he mentioned and do
absolutely
with them.
But I have to tell you something.
And before you do that, I got to thank Pony Boy. We got a tip on Rumble. Thank you so much. That is amazing. Thank you so much. He's in the competition between now and May 9th.
I love it.
Add up all of it, and then we're gonna send back 10%. So everybody tip, so the pot gets really big, and someone's gonna have a great day on May 9th.
I just want to comment that I did not invite Steve on the show. I want to tell you what an amazing man he is. I got in touch with him because I sent him an email and I asked him, what do I do? Because you inspired me, Taylor, because you said you've got to get involved. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to go to the boss. I'm going to go to Steve Stern. He's the one, right?
Uh-huh.
He's a hero in this household. So I sent him an email. The man answered me. And I said to you, Steve Stern emailed me. I'm like, he didn't really email me. It has to be one of his people that emailed me, right? Couldn't be him. So he told me who to get in touch with in California. He got me in touch with John. I spoke to John, literally picked up the phone and called me, got me in touch with the people here, blah, blah, blah. You heard me say some of that. But let me tell you something. I told John that we had a podcast. We have 2 podcasts, right? And Steve Stern sent me an email and said, Lisa, do you have a podcast? He suggested that he come on. That's what an amazing man he is.
That's
and I'm
awesome.
like, oh my Lord, yes, of course. What, would you like to come on? And you're like, and I'm texting you, oh my God, Steve says he wants to come on. Like, what a beautiful human, what a beautiful spirit this man is. And when you have meaning and purpose in your life like he does, you will live forever. God bless Steve Stern.
You know what else is great too? And he understands the importance of the power of one. Right?
Yes.
There's one Donald Trump. There's one JD Vance. There's one Lisa Phillips, one Taylor Jonatakis. And you can make a big difference. There's an old, I think it's a Norwegian or a Viking axiom that says the voice of the father is often not heard, but it echoes through the generations. Right. And a lot of times when you say things, you never know who you're going to touch. That's one of the amazing things about doing this podcast. We don't have the biggest audience and we don't care. It's not the point. The point is influence. It's the little things you hear that then you can go out and apply and do something with, and it echoes.
Yep.
Right? The impact that one person can have can echo through the generations, and it didn't have to be said to 1 million people. A lot of times when you're talking to 1 million people, it falls on deaf ears. But when you're talking to one or you're talking to a small group of people, it's intimate and it's impactful. And so I really appreciate him doing that because like he said, probably many people here have never had a chance to hear him, or maybe they've heard him in passing, but knowing that he's interested in you, right? He's interested in our small little audience and our podcast, because a precinct officer, someone who goes and gets involved in the party, you might run the party in the future. You might be the future governor and not even know it where you're sitting today. But once you go get involved and you see how you can make a difference, this is about not just today, it's about future generations. You know, we're living with the consequences, good or bad, of decisions that precinct officers and committeemen and, you know, politicians have made generations past.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff lasts a long time. I mean, clearly Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Ben Franklin, we're still living with the ramifications of the first precinct committee officer meeting in Philadelphia, right? And we love it. But yes, the power of one. Every single person, no matter what your age, you should get involved, and especially the youth. You've got a whole generation, you've got a whole life ahead of you. You should probably have a say in, the place we live and how the place is run. So it's awesome.
Really, yeah.
It's really
And
great.
thank you also and Ron for letting him come on Peasants Perspective. This is a huge platform, even though the audience is not huge. It's huge platform for the knowledge that you share. And you're the one J6 had to do with the
It's all about
election being
elections.
stolen. And like you said, what did you say? It threads the needle on everything.
Jacek picks the lock.
Fix the lock on every other issue that's going on. It is the key turning point, the keystone. So I'm so what a great day.
In many ways, yeah, the country was kind of doing this nosedive thing, and then J6, it's like people woke up. It's like, oh my gosh, it's everything. It's COVID, it's the elections, it's the oppression of government, it's the censorship, and it all kind of centers around.
And how about
J6
the show
moment.
this morning? Your show before this show is a critical show for everybody to go watch. I'm going to download it and put it on our 1776 Live. It is an epic show because you are showing the evidence that they had FBI in. John Solomon said they were there, just
They
like
set it
they're
up.
in.
Yeah.
They
and
did
the
it.
prosecutions to follow.
Yeah, like it's a real thing. So let's take that ball down the field and let's make it make sense to everybody, not beat them over the head, but the information is out there now. People saying there's no evidence, there wasn't a stolen election. I meet people who are patriots like us, and they'll drop a bomb like, well, there's no evidence that there was election fraud. And I'm like, are you a moron? Like, what do you say to that?
I was going to comment. Carlite, you asked a great question about the military getting involved. And I've thought a lot about this. Like, it'd be so easy for the president to come in as commander in chief, command his generals to go and audit the elections. And Sidney Powell suggested such. And, but the thing is, that's a nuclear option. And once you do that, you set the precedent. So now the next president is going to go, oh, I didn't like this election, send the military over, count ballots. And, who knows where that goes. So it's a lot of times when you do something for the first time, it won't be the last time. Right. And so that's where I think it's like we have to do this democratically. The Constitution of the country, the government, is a direct reflection of the Constitution of the people. It's consent of the governed.
Yeah.
And whether you like it or not, we've consented to this. Just like you mentioned, even a Republican, a conservative, well, I don't know if the election was stolen or there's no evidence. Well, then the government is going to reflect that. They're going to take that energy and go, yep, nothing to see here, folks. Right. And so you've got to go get involved. Make your voice heard, social media. These are all great tools. But the most impactful thing you can do beyond voting on election day, go get involved in the party. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, go get involved. This week at our precinct meeting, and we'll kind of wrap up with this. Mm-hmm. I was there, and one of the committee members went to the Democrat committee member, kind of the Democrat precinct, right? And kind of incognito. And they were doing the same thing we were doing, endorsing candidates. And one of the candidates that's going to run against the Democrat incumbent in the district I'm in, the Democrat incumbent in the district I am at the state for state representative, she's corrupt. And she's been caught. We've got financial documents. She's corrupt. The Democrats are pissed. They're upset with her. So they're running a primary challenge against her.
And they're only upset because she got caught.
When it comes to your local, the people aren't crazy. These are your neighbors. They're just as upset in the Democrat Party as Republicans are. The Democrat Socialists of America, they're like this small niche activist group, and they'll come take over a weak precinct and you'll end up with an AOC or whatever. And so they're upset. So they're running a Democrat against her. So the Democrat gets up and he talks about lower taxes, talks about getting rid of fraud. He talks about he has a pocket constitution that he carries with him everywhere he goes. And the guy's like, he would fit in with us. He is as close to Republican as you can get with still being in the Democrat Party. So he's clearly one of those Democrat, no matter, vote blue, no matter who guys. He's Washington State. There's kind of a Democratic zeitgeist here, but he's clearly a conservative. He's at best a blue dog Democrat, right? The thing about Washington State is this is such a liberal society that it's like you let your freak flag fly. So a lot of people have been Democratic because they're pretty liberal on social issues.
Right.
But when it comes to taxes, nobody wants to pay more taxes. People
Right.
want the potholes filled in. Nobody wants homeless encampments outside their neighborhood, and so he's one of those guys. It's like, hey, this is insanity. That's fraud. That's corruption. That's a crime. Double standards. He's saying all the things we say, but he's going to run on the blue ticket. And it's like, we're missing the point. You and your neighbors are not that different. The divide and conquer strategy, red team, blue team, keeps us from talking. But when you
And that's
actually go
intentional.
out and meet with people and you don't lead with what party color you are, you recognize we have way more in common than we do different. And
Yeah.
so that's what if you want to make a difference, go get involved. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Go to the one close to your house on the day you can go and get involved. Keep your core principles, keep your values, and vote in the precinct. Be on the selection committee that decides who the parties endorse. Be on the end where when you call an elected official, you're a precinct committee officer, and that gives you power because you're not just one constituent with one ballot. You're one precinct committee officer that's in charge of collecting 1,000 ballots in your little precinct. So all of a sudden you have impact because you're the one that's going to go door knocking. You're the one that's going to organize that campaign, and they need your energy. And the thing they don't want is you working against them. And
Yeah,
so
and
it doesn't matter if it's right or left. Go get involved.
And when I went to this meeting here, in Los Angeles County, huge county, and there were maybe 20 people in the room in
Yep.
an old restaurant side room, and I thought to myself, we owe it to all these people who've put all this energy and time into doing this to show up.
Yep.
Like, it's not on them, it's on us.
Exactly. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was so fun. I'm glad we got to do it. I can't, Lisa, thank you for setting this up. Thank you, Steve Cern, even though you're not sitting here with us, for coming on and understanding, yeah, we're the little guys, but we got a lot invested in this place. So we want it to succeed more than anything else. So thank you so much. And with that, you guys, we will talk to you on Sunday, Liberty Lounge, 5:30 p.m. Pacific
And we
time,
have a
right?
special guest, Liberty Lounge, talking about
Yes,
Bitcoin.
we do. Bitcoin. It's going to
Come
be
and
awesome.
learn.
So, yes, come learn. And thank you, Pony Boy, for the tip. And there was another tip that came through earlier. I haven't seen who it was. It came through right when we got offline. But thank you so much, guys. We will talk to you again on